Are we on drugs? Do we go to the drugstore? Do you take aspirin? Do you take a Tylenol? Do you take a Rolaids for relief?
No.
You go to the bathroom?
Yes, sir.
Is it against the law to go to the bathroom?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
You think the queens of Motown, the silky voices, the glamorous gowns, the untouchable black goddesses who made the world fall in love were flawless, right? Clean, perfumed, perfect every second on and off stage? Think again. Right before he died in 2006, in a dark Atlanta hospital room, tubes in his arms, voice barely a whisper, James Brown leaned in and dropped the bomb. 7 of your favorite female legends, he rasped, had hygiene so nasty it'd make you gag, each one filthy in her own sick way. Armpits like rotten fish oil, hair like week-old grease, breath like fermented onions, feet like moldy cheese, underwear unchanged for days, sour and rancid, body funk like burnt motor oil, ears and neck rotting like wet trash. He almost puked, discovering it himself. You ready for the filthy truth? Because once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Hit subscribe to support us. Black Legends Files is ripping the veil off today. You ready to hear the real filthy truth? Because once you know, you can't unknow it. 1. Martha Reeves, the street dancer with a secret stench. Let's step back to the electrifying world of Motown in the mid-1960s, where the beat was relentless and the stars shone brighter than the city lights. Martha Reeves, the fiery lead of Martha and the Vandellas, was the queen of upbeat anthems that got everyone moving. Born in 1941 in Eufaula, Alabama, she moved to Detroit as a kid, hustling her way from secretary gigs at Motown to belting out hits like Heat Wave in 1963 and Nowhere to Run in 1965. By 1964, she was a sensation, her voice raw and powerful, her stage presence commanding crowds to dance like their lives depended on it. Fans saw her as the embodiment of black joy and resilience, a woman who turned everyday struggles into feel-good grooves. But behind that vibrant smile and those killer dance moves lurked a habit that would shock anyone who got too close. Martha had this quirky thing about her diet. She swore by raw garlic and onions as a natural boost for her vocals, munching on them like snacks before shows to keep her throat clear and energy high. Problem was, she didn't follow up with thorough brushing or mouthwash. She'd rinse quickly, pop a mint, and hit the stage, thinking it was fine. But those pungent oils lingered, mixing with her saliva and breath to create a stench like fermented onions rotting in the sun, sharp, eye-watering, and impossible to ignore. Picture this. It's a humid night in July 1964 at the Regal Theater in Chicago, part of a grueling Motown package tour. The place is packed, sweaty bodies swaying, lights flashing, the air thick with excitement. JB, James Brown himself, had just wrapped his explosive set, cape flying, feet shuffling like lightning. He's backstage, wiping sweat from his brow, when Martha bounces off stage after dancing in the street. The crowd's roar still echoes. She spots him, grins wide, and leans in for a celebratory chat. That's when it hits. Her breath explodes in his face like a bomb, hot, garlicky, sour as onions left to fester. JB's eyes instantly water. He blinks hard, feeling the sting like someone shoved a chopped bulb right up his nose. His stomach flips. He steps back instinctively, one hand rising to his face as if to wave away smoke. But it's no smoke. It's her mouth, reeking from those raw veggies she loved so much. The smell clings heavy and nauseating, making his throat tighten. He coughs, plays it off with a forced laugh. Phew, Martha, you got some fire in that voice tonight. But inside, his mind races. This woman dances like the streets are on fire, but her breath could start the blaze itself. Like rotten onions mixed with yesterday's trash, how does she not notice? The moment passes, but it haunts him. He never confronted her directly, respect for a fellow artist, but it changed how he approached her in future run-ins. Fast forward to December 2006, in that sterile Atlanta hospital room, machines beeping softly in the dim light. J.B., frail from pneumonia, gathers a few trusted souls around his bed. His voice is weak, but the fire's still there. Martha Reeves, he whispers, eyes narrowing. Loved her raw garlic and onions before shows. Kept her voice strong, she said, but didn't brush enough. Breath hit me like fermented onions in '64 at the Regal. Almost made me puke right there backstage. He pauses, shaking his head. I admired that woman, her energy, her hits. But damn, some days I had to hold my breath just to say hello. For me, James Brown, hygiene was discipline. Like my dance steps, Martha's habit? It was a blind spot in her armor, a reminder that even stars have flaws that hit you where it hurts, right in the nose. But it didn't dim her shine. If anything, it made her human in a world of perfection. Still, I'll never forget that Chicago night, the roar of the crowd fading, replaced by that gut-punching stench. 2. Mary Wells, the hitmaker who trapped her feet in funk. Rewind to the early days of Motown's golden era when the sound was fresh and unstoppable. Mary Wells, born in 1943 in Detroit, rose from humble roots, overcoming childhood illness to become Motown's first big female star. By 1962, she was unstoppable, dropping smashes like The One Who Really Loves You and You Beat Me to the Punch, her voice smooth and sultry, earning her the title Queen of Motown. She toured relentlessly, charming audiences with her poise and that effortless charm. Fans adored her as the girl next door with a golden throat. But Mary had a routine that turned her into a walking biohazard below the ankles. She loved her high-heeled, closed-toe shoes, stylish, essential for stage presence, but she wore them all day without changing socks or airing her feet. The habit stemmed from her packed schedule, no time to switch during long rehearsals or tours. Sweat built up in those confined spaces, mixing with bacteria and dead skin, creating a stench like aged cheese left in a damp basement, sour, pungent, and eye-stinging. Visualize this. It's a crisp fall afternoon in October 1962 at Hitsville, USA, Motown's legendary studio in Detroit. The place is buzzing, musicians tuning instruments, Berry Gordy barking orders, the air filled with cigarette smoke and creative energy. JB is there for a quick session overlap, sitting in a folding chair next to Mary as she rests between takes. She's just nailed 2 lovers, kicking off her heels for a breather. The smell rises like a ghost from below the table. Her feet, finally free, release a wave of foulness, thick, cheesy rot mixed with sweaty leather. JB's nose twitches first, then his eyes start burning as if pepper sprayed. He leans back, hand flying to his face, coughing to cover the gag reflex. The odor clings, heavy and nauseating, making the whole room feel stuffy. He glances down, her socks damp, shoes worn, thinking, this hitmaker's got the voice of an angel, but feet smelling like devil's cheese. How does she stand it? He excuses himself politely, but the memory sticks. Cut to December 2006 in the quiet glow of that Atlanta hospital, monitors glowing softly. JB, his body failing but mind sharp, pulls a friend close. Mary Wells, he murmurs, voice gravelly, wore those closed heels all day without fresh socks. Feet reeked like moldy cheese in '62 at Hitsville. Hit me hard when she slipped them off. Almost made me bolt from the studio. He chuckles faintly, then turns serious. I respected her talent, first big star for Motown. But man, some habits you just can't ignore. Had to breathe through my mouth just to finish the session. As James Brown, I always preached discipline, hygiene included, like keeping my shoes polished. Mary's foot funk? It was a quirky flaw in her otherwise flawless rise, a human touch in the machine of stardom. But that Detroit afternoon, with the studio humming and her shoes off, the stench hit like a bad note in a perfect song. Unforgettable. 3. Tammi Terrell, the Duet, star who let her undergarments fester. Travel back to the vibrant heart of Motown in 1967 when partnerships defined the sound. Tammi Terrell, born in 1945 in Philadelphia, burst onto the scene with her stunning beauty and voice, teaming with Marvin Gaye for classics like Ain't No Mountain High Enough. She was the picture of grace, elegant, talented, a rising star who overcame early hardships to shine bright. Fans saw her as the ultimate duet queen, her chemistry with Marvin Electric. But Tammi had a rushed habit that bred pure nastiness. She rarely changed her underwear during grueling schedules. With back-to-back shows and travel, she'd wear the same pair for days, letting sweat and moisture build into a musty, sour mess. The result? A stench like damp trash left in a humid room, rank, clinging, and nauseating. Envision this. It's a steamy August night in 1967 at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. The crowd's roaring after Tammi's duet with Marvin on Your Precious Love. Backstage is chaos, costume changes, makeup touch-ups, the air thick with perfume and sweat. JB is there as a guest, chatting with Marvin when Tammi slips in to change outfits quickly. She sits nearby, hiking up her skirt for a moment's rest. The smell wafts over, sour, musty, like rotten rags soaked in sweat. Her underwear, unchanged for the tour's leg, releases a wave of funk from the private area. Damp mold mixed with body odor. JB's eyes widen. The odor hits him full force, stinging his nostrils, making his stomach churn. He shifts in his seat, hand casually over his nose, coughing to mask the retch. The scent lingers, heavy and intimate, turning the room oppressive. He thinks, this duet angel's got the voice to move mountains, but her undergarments smell like a swamp. He never mentioned it then, professional courtesy, but it lingered in his mind. Flash to December 2006, in the sterile hush of that Atlanta hospital, lights low and air heavy. JB, drawing his last breaths, beckons a confidant. Tammi Terrell, he whispers hoarsely, didn't change her underwear enough on those long tours. Smell hit me like damp garbage in '67 at the Apollo, when she sat close backstage, almost made me sick. He pauses, reflective. Loved her spirit, her hits with Marvin, but damn, some secrets you wish stayed hidden. Had to breathe shallow just to stay in the room. In my shoes, as James Brown, hygiene was non-negotiable, like my precise footwork. Tammi's oversight? A side effect of the road's grind, a hidden crack in her polished image. But that Harlem night, amid the post-show buzz and her quick change, the funk rose like a bad omen, unforgettable in its intimacy. 4. Gladys Knight, the Empress of Soul who let her hair turn greasy. It was a warm evening in 1973 at a private Motown after-party held at Berry Gordy's mansion in Los Angeles. The room was alive with laughter, clinking glasses, and low Motown beats. Gladys Knight had just finished a stunning performance of Midnight Train to Georgia, her voice still echoing in everyone's ears. She was radiant, elegant gown, that signature warm smile, the Empress of Soul in full glory. James Brown arrived late, fresh from his own show across town. He spotted Gladys near the bar and made his way over, arms wide for a hug. "Gladys, baby," he called out. She turned, smiled that golden smile, and leaned in. The moment her head tilted toward him, it hit. Her hair, usually so perfectly styled, carried a thick, rancid smell of old oil and scalp sweat. She had this habit. She loved her natural hair texture and refused to wash it too often, convinced frequent shampooing would strip its shine and volume. So she went days, sometimes a full week, between washes, letting natural oils and sweat build up until the scent turned sour, like frying grease left sitting out overnight. JB's smile froze. The odor rose in a heavy wave as she hugged him, coating his nostrils, making his eyes water instantly. He coughed, tried to cover it with a laugh, but the smell was unmistakable, pungent, stale, almost cheesy. He pulled back a little too quickly, pretending to adjust his cape. Inside, he was reeling. This woman sings like an angel, but her hair smells like old kitchen oil. In that same hospital room in December 2006, with machines beeping softly, James Brown told the small group gathered around his bed, Gladys Knight didn't wash her hair near enough. That natural look she loved, it turned greasy and sour, smelled like weak old cooking oil every time she leaned close. I had to stand back just to breathe. He gave a weak chuckle, then sighed. I adored her. But Lord, some nights I had to hold my breath just to talk to her. 5. Diana Ross, the Supremes, the diva who skipped showers to save her hair. Someone says James Brown leaned close to a small circle of trusted friends and dropped the bomb that still echoes in Motown shadows. Diana Ross, he whispered, eyes distant and tired, the queen of glamour, was lazy about bathing. Her armpits smelled like oily fish left rotting in the sun. Almost made me run off that stage in '67. It all started in the summer of 1967, backstage at the Fox Theater in Detroit, one of those legendary Motown review nights where the city felt like it was holding its breath. The air was thick with cigarette smoke, anticipation, and the fading echo of You Can't Hurry Love still ringing from the rafters. James Brown had just torn through his set, sweat pouring, cape flying, splits and spins, leaving the crowd screaming. He was waiting in the wings, still buzzing from the energy, when the Supremes finished their performance. Diana Ross stepped off stage. She was 23 years old, already the face of Motown glamour. Born March 26, 1944, in Detroit, Diana had clawed her way up from Brewster Project's housing, singing in church choirs and girl groups before landing with the Supremes. By 1964, with Where Did Our Love Go?, she became the breakout star, elegant, poised, the perfect blend of beauty and ambition. Berry Gordy molded her into the label's golden girl, perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect gowns. She was untouchable. Fans worshipped her as the ultimate black diva, classy, controlled, flawless. But there was a secret flaw few ever saw up close. Diana had this obsessive habit. She believed frequent showers would ruin her signature hair. That teased, glossy, sky-high bouffant was her trademark. Hours in the chair, gallons of hairspray, delicate oils to keep it shining. Water, she feared, would strip the natural oils and flatten the style. So, on performance days especially, she skipped showers entirely. A quick sponge bath with a cloth, heavy baby powder under the arms, and a cloud of perfume to mask it. But sweat, especially the rich, oily kind black skin produces in hot stage lights, doesn't hide that easily. It builds, thickens, turns sour and fishy. JB stepped forward with that wide, golden-toothed smile, arms open for a quick embrace. Diana, baby, you killed it out there. The spotlight had barely dimmed. She walked into the narrow hallway, still glowing from the applause, hair perfectly teased, gown shimmering under the dim backstage bulbs. The hallway was tight, costume racks, cables snaking across the floor, the faint smell of hairspray and cigarette smoke hanging heavy. Then she got close, maybe 2 feet away. The smell hit him like a slap, heavy, oily, sour, like fish left out in warm humidity mixed with thick body oil. It rolled off her armpits in waves, sharp and rancid, stinging his eyes until they watered. JB froze mid-step. His smile faded. One hand instinctively rose to cover his nose. His stomach lurched hard. He felt bile rise in his throat. The odor clung, invasive, coating his clothes, his skin. He coughed once, tried to play it off with a laugh, but the stench was unmistakable. He thought, this is the most beautiful woman in Motown, the queen everyone bows to, and she smells like she hasn't bathed in days. He leaned back, forcing a grin. Phew, girl, hot out there tonight, huh? But inside, his mind was spinning. The smell didn't fade. It followed him as she walked away, leaving him standing there, stunned. Rumors had already been floating around Motown for years. Stylists whispered that Diana's dressing room always smelled off, like baby powder couldn't quite cover something underneath. One makeup artist allegedly refused to work on her close-up shots because the odor made her eyes water. Another story claimed Berry Gordy once had to air out the studio after a long Supremes session. Fans at meet and greets sometimes left saying, "She smelled funny up close," but no one dared say it out loud. Diana was untouchable. To criticize her hygiene was to criticize the label itself. But JB knew the truth, and he carried it quietly, out of respect, out of loyalty to the Motown family. Years later, in that dim Atlanta hospital room in late December 2006, machines beeping softly, tubes snaking into his arms, James Brown gathered a handful of close friends. His voice was weak, raspy from pneumonia, but the fire was still there. He leaned forward slightly, eyes distant, reliving the memory. "Diana Ross," he rasped, "the queen of glamour, lazy about bathing, thought washing would ruin her hair, but that oily sweat, black girl sweat, built up thick. Her armpits smelled like fish left rotting in the sun. Hit me like a slap backstage at the Fox in '67. I almost ran off that stage." He shook his head slowly, a faint, bitter chuckle escaping. "I loved her like a sister, admired her ambition, her beauty, her voice. But God help me, some nights I had to hold my breath just to stand next to her." For me, James Brown, hygiene was discipline. I polished my shoes, oiled my body, kept everything sharp because the stage demanded perfection. Diana's habit? It was her armor, protecting that crown of hair that made her the face of Motown. But armor can rust. And that night in Detroit, with the crowd still cheering and her gown sparkling, the rust hit me full force. A smell so strong it burned my eyes, turned my stomach, reminded me that even queens have secrets that stink. 6. Kim Weston, the Duet Diva, who bathed like a rebel. Let's rewind the clock to the heart of Motown's explosive era, when the Motor City was pumping out hits faster than Ford assembly lines. Kim Weston, born in 1939 in Detroit, was no stranger to the grind. She started singing in church choirs as a kid, honing that rich, soulful voice that would make her a Motown staple. By the early 1960s, she was signed to the label, dropping gems like "Take Me in Your Arms," "Rock Me a Little While" in 1965, a track that showcased her powerhouse delivery and raw emotion. But it was her duets that really put her on the map, especially with Marvin Gaye on "It Takes Two" in 1966, a song that became an anthem for love and partnership. Fans adored her, strong, vibrant, the kind of woman who commanded the stage with confidence and grace. She wasn't just a singer, she was a symbol of Black resilience, pushing through the male-dominated industry to claim her spot. James Brown knew her well. They crossed paths often in those wild Motown days, shared tours, late-night jam sessions, industry parties where the funk godfather and the duet diva would trade stories and laughs. JB respected Kim's talent. He once called her a voice that could cut through steel in a backstage chat. But there was a side to Kim that even her closest collaborators whispered about, a habit so ingrained it turned her into a walking health hazard. Kim had this quirky belief in natural cleansing. She thought soap stripped the skin's essential oils, especially for Black folks whose bodies produced more sebum. So she bathed with just water, plain old tap water, no suds, no scrub. She'd splash and rinse quickly, convinced it kept her authentic and her skin glowing. But in reality, it let sweat and oil build up, especially in the heat of performances, creating a body odor like old motor oil left in a garage, thick, metallic, and nauseatingly pungent. The rumors started swirling in the mid-1960s. Insiders at Motown gossiped that Kim's dressing room always had a funky haze, like someone had spilled engine grease. One producer allegedly complained that during recording sessions, the booth would reek after she left, forcing them to air it out. Fans at close-up meet and greets whispered about a strange, oily smell wafting from her, blaming it on that Detroit grit. But JB discovered the truth firsthand, and it nearly knocked him off his feet. It was a sweltering evening in June 1966 at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York, a legendary venue packed with screaming fans for a Motown showcase. JB had just electrified the crowd with his signature splits and spins, sweat pouring off him like rain. Backstage was chaos, artists rushing, wardrobe changes, the air thick with perfume, cologne, and the faint metallic tang of stage lights heating up. Kim had finished her set with "It Takes Two," her voice soaring, leaving the audience begging for more. JB spotted her in the hallway, still in her sparkling gown, and went in for a congratulatory hug. "Kim, you slayed it out there," he boomed, arms wide. The second they embraced, it assaulted him. A wave of oily, sweaty funk rolled off her body, thick and heavy, like rancid machine oil mixed with stale sweat. It wasn't just a whiff, it enveloped him, clinging to his suit, stinging his nostrils. Kim's skin, unscrubbed for days, had trapped layers of oil and grime from endless rehearsals and travel. The smell was industrial, almost chemical, sharp enough to make his eyes water and his head spin. JB felt dizzy, like he'd inhaled fumes from a mechanic's shop. He pulled back quickly, forcing a smile, but his mind raced. This woman's got the Duet magic, but she smells like month-old motor oil. How does she not feel it coating her? He didn't say a word then, too much respect for a fellow artist, but the encounter fueled more rumors. Whispers spread that Kim's natural routine caused canceled collaborations. One session allegedly ended early because the smell distracted the band. Another tale claimed she once cleared a green room at a TV taping, leaving stars like Smokey Robinson fanning the air. Fast forward to December 2006, in the dim glow of an Atlanta hospital room, monitors beeping like a slow funeral march. JB, weakened by pneumonia, his once powerful frame frail, gathered a few confidants. His voice, gravelly and low, cut through the silence. Kim Weston didn't use soap in the shower, thought it was better for her skin, but that body oil and sweat smelled like old motor oil in '66 at the Apollo. Hit me when I hugged her backstage, made me dizzy, eyes burning, almost wanted to bolt from the event. He paused, a faint chuckle escaping. Loved her fire, her hits, but damn, some habits stick to you, literally. Had to wash my suit twice just to get rid of it. As James Brown, I lived by sweat and discipline, my body a machine oiled for performance. Kim's no-soap rebellion? It was her quirky armor in a demanding world, but it backfired into a stench that could halt a show. That Harlem hug lingers in my memory like bad grease, unshakable, a reminder that even divas have dirty secrets. Thelma Houston, the disco queen with a hidden rot dive into the glittering disco explosion of the late 1970s, when beats pulsed like heartbeats and dance floors were battlegrounds. Thelma Houston, born in 1946 in Leland, Mississippi, clawed her way from gospel roots to Motown stardom. She signed with the label in 1966, but her big break came with "Don't Leave Me This Way" in 1976, a Grammy-winning smash that defined the era's euphoric energy. Fans revered her as the disco powerhouse, her voice soaring with passion, her presence commanding respect in a male-heavy scene. She was resilience personified, overcoming early struggles to become a symbol of black triumph. James Brown crossed paths with Thelma multiple times, shared award shows, industry galas, even a few collaborative whispers that never materialized. JB admired her grit. He once told a mutual friend she had a voice that could light up the night, but beneath her polished image lay a neglectful routine that bred a foulness few dared mention. Thelma had this odd oversight. She rarely cleaned her ears and neck thoroughly. With heavy makeup, jewelry, and sweat from performances, earwax built up, mixing with neck sweat into a sticky, rancid mess. The smell was like wet garbage left to ferment, sour, earthy, with a hint of decay that clung to everything. Gossip mills churned in the late 70s. Insiders claimed Thelma's limo always needed airing out after rides, blaming that neck funk. One stylist allegedly refused to work on her up close, citing ear issues. Rumors even linked it to canceled appearances, saying the smell distracted collaborators during rehearsals. JB uncovered it firsthand, and it left him reeling. It was February 1977 at the Grammy Awards in Los Angeles Shrine Auditorium, a star-studded night with flashing cameras, elegant gowns, and the buzz of winners. Thelma had just snagged Best Female R&B Vocal for Don't Leave Me This Way, her acceptance speech electric. JB, nominated himself, was mingling backstage in a crowded green room, air thick with champagne and excitement. He spotted Thelma, trophy in hand, and leaned in for a quick congratulatory chat. "Thelma, you deserved every bit of that," he said, tilting his head close. She turned, smiling, neck glistening under the lights. The stench hit like a wave, sour, musty rot from her ears and neck, like damp trash piled in humidity. Earwax buildup mixed with unwashed sweat created a pungent fog that stung JB's eyes, making them tear up instantly. He blinked hard, head spinning from the earthy decay. The smell clung, heavy and invasive, turning his stomach. He stepped back, forcing a grin, but thought, "This disco queen's got the moves to keep you dancing, but her ears and neck smell like rotting garbage. How does she not scrub that off?" He kept it quiet then, professionalism first, but the encounter fueled whispers. Another rumor claimed Thelma's ear funk once cleared an after-party table, leaving guests fanning themselves. In December 2006, amid the sterile beeps of an Atlanta hospital, JB, his body failing, spirit unbroken, shared with confidants. "Thelma Houston didn't clean her ears and neck enough. Wax and sweat built up like wet trash. Hit me hard in '77 at the Grammys when she leaned close, eyes burning, almost made me ditch the event." He sighed deeply. Loved her disco fire, her Grammy win, but man, some secrets fester, literally. Had to wipe my face just to shake it off. For me, James Brown, cleanliness was part of the show, like my polished shoes. Thelma's neglect? A side effect of her non-stop hustle, but it festered into a rot that could sour any celebration. That Grammy night, amid the cheers and flashbulbs, the stench rose like a bad vibe, unforgettable in its decay. So that's the end of this dark journey, the shocking secrets about the hygiene and filthy habits of 7 legendary Motown female singers that James Brown allegedly spilled right before he passed away. From Diana Ross's oily armpit funk smelling like rotten fish, Gladys Knight's greasy hair reeking of week-old frying oil, Martha Reeves's onion garlic breath that could knock you flat, Mary Wells's moldy cheese feet, Tammi Terrell's musty, sour underwear stench, Kim Weston's full-body motor oil body odor, all the way to Thelma Houston's rotting earwax and neck sweat like wet garbage. Every single one of them enough to make your skin crawl. But before we wrap this up, I gotta be straight with y'all. This is all rumors, exaggerated gossip, and straight-up fictional drama built for storytelling, styled after classic Motown scandal tales. There is zero official proof that James Brown ever said any of this before his death in 2006. No recordings, no credible witnesses, no documented statements, nothing. It's all hearsay, backstage whispers, urban legends, and mostly made-up details to crank up the shock value and keep you hooked on the video. These women are real icons of black power, raw talent, and unbreakable strength. They overcame insane odds to build the soundtrack of a generation and make black music history. Don't let fake drama overshadow their incredible legacy. Thank you so much for riding with Black Legends Files through this wild one. If you felt shocked, if you laughed, if you're arguing in the comments right now, that means the video did its job. Hit that like button. If you're still recovering, share it with your friends. Who love the tea, drop a comment telling me which filthy habit shocked you the most, and subscribe plus turn on notifications so you don't miss the next dark secret we uncover. Motown love can get real dark, but the power of these legends, that stays eternal. See you in the next one.